And Lincoln's Real Red Reaction Show, live with your calls, opinions, and rants, all uncensored. Get it all out there. Say what you need to say without limits. The Real Red Reaction Show, powered by Hail Varsity.
Say your say now at 402-466-3776 or tweet your thoughts at ESPN Lincoln.
Only from ESPN Lincoln, 101.5 FM and 1480 AM.
Welcome to it. It's Real Red Reaction on ESPN Lincoln. We're also streaming live on Facebook with KFOR 96 Kicks, KFOR Twitter, ESPN Lincoln Twitter and Facebook, Real Red Reaction TV on YouTube, and the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle. We got a host of folks. I don't know that there's much alcohol or munchies left because, man, this thing was a roller coaster for Nebraska fans. The Huskers fall at Purdue in a good old-fashioned Big Ten Purdue shootout, 43-37. We'll take your phone calls here and take you into midnight, 466-3776, 466-3776, or 800-825-5865. Can also email Chris at HailVarsity.com. Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. Meg in from 96 Kicks along with JP from 96 Kicks and Tim Bob Kitzmiller. You hear him on high school football coverage and you see him around town. Tell you what, guys, gals, it was there for Nebraska. They got down. They battled back. It looked like Purdue had a couple of opportunities for knockout shots. Nebraska down double digits a couple of different times, but Nebraska always had a response. The storylines from tonight, Trey Palmer's single-game record will not go unremembered or unnoticed. 237 yards, breaking J.D. Spielman's record of 209 yards. Nebraska's defense getting gashed for over 600 yards. Aiden O'Connell, 4 touchdowns, 391 yards passing. And quite frankly, the stat that's going to make you sick is what a walk-on I-back did for Purdue with 30 carries for 179 yards. Nebraska had no answer and no way to stop Purdue's running game. And I tell you what, Nebraska could not get home to get O'Connell off rhythm very often. He was 9 of 17 on third downs. Purdue was really good on third down, but Nebraska always seemed to have an answer. Elijah, we'll start with you in the form of Trey Palmer. 2 turnovers, going to happen if you're throwing the football 1,000 times, but 2 tough interceptions for Casey Thompson. That equaled 10 points in a 6-point ball game. When you look at points off turnovers, Nebraska ended up getting a field goal off of their blocked punt. So there's your difference. There's your touchdown on the road when it comes to points off turnovers.
And let's also make something clear here. Nebraska, they lost the turnover battle, yeah, but where they really lost this game was time of possession. Purdue, 42 minutes, more than 42 minutes, time of possession against the Huskers. The Husker offense was completely reliant on chunk plays. They got a few of them. They got enough of them to keep them within this game, but they did not have enough to go win this football game. I think as soon as you saw that Purdue had a chance to go run this clock out at the end, I mean, if I was a betting man, if I was sitting at home, I was going to bet that Purdue was going to run that clock out. They were never going to give the ball back to Nebraska. Purdue did what they wanted on the ground. Purdue did what they wanted through the air. You mentioned Mockabee. Mockabee was great on the ground tonight. I'm not going to give full credit to him. I think his offense line did a great job letting him get 3-4 yards. And then with a thick body like that, you're going to fall forward and get a couple extra yards. So the Husker defense was not good enough stopping the run, and they definitely weren't good enough stopping the pass. And in that case, I want to give a lot of credit to Aiden O'Connell. His ball placement was perfect for a lot of the night. He won the quarterback battle between Aiden O'Connell and Casey Thompson. It wasn't even close. Aiden O'Connell went and won that quarterback battle. Casey Thompson had a lot of help from Trey Palmer. I think Trey Palmer was probably the best player on the field tonight. But at the end of the day, Nebraska's defense couldn't get it done with their rushing defense, with their passing defense, and they couldn't keep Purdue's offense off the field. So this is a game where I think the final score is generous towards Nebraska. Purdue dominated all the stats. I think they dominated the game overall. Nebraska took the top off the defense a couple of times, and that's full credit to a guy like Trey Palmer, who I think was best on the field. But 38 first downs for Purdue compared to Nebraska's 15, 608 yards of offense compared to 476. The score line is favorable towards Nebraska from what my eyes saw, and I think Purdue went out and was the much better team on pretty much all three phases of the game tonight. Full credit to Purdue. They went and won this football game, but Nebraska, not many moral victories aside from the fact that Trey Palmer is very good at football, which is something we already knew. Trey Palmer did all he could to keep Nebraska in this game, but it wasn't enough because for 21 out of 22 players in the field, Purdue was better.
Well, Nebraska was not physical enough on the lines of scrimmage. Meg, Aiden O'Connell will not win any mustache awards, but he keeps trying. He'll no doubt be up for the running of all Big Ten quarterback, not just for tonight's performance, but he's been a college quarterback for 37 years. Joking aside, this was a big ball game. This was a key moment for Nebraska, a key moment for Purdue to stay in the West race. Minnesota fell today. Illinois in the driver's seat. Purdue and Illinois will tangle down the road. Your takeaway from tonight's action?
Well, what did we know? We knew going into this game this week that Purdue's offense was going to be a problem, and sure enough, their offense was a problem. Our defense couldn't keep up. I mean, you have Aiden O'Connell, Devin Maccabee. That matchup was virtually unstoppable all night, and it's frustrating to see yet again on defense. It's almost like we just can't get consistent on tackling. That so many missed tackles all night. Really frustrating to see. I mean, Elijah pretty much summed it up, to start. But I mean, it's just, we can keep singing the same old song and dance every single time. But it just almost feels like once we get a few steps ahead, it's like the next weekend, it's like we're taking a few steps back. So it's frustrating. But when you go out and play like that and you give up, you have turnovers like that and you have your offensive line performing again the way that it has been all season, do we deserve to take the W from tonight? Probably not. all the credit to Purdue.
Yeah, Nebraska did tighten up a little bit when it comes to sacks in the second half. None allowed, 4 for the game, 4 in the first half for Purdue. Yeah. JP, you're in the dark. Are we moping, or is this just a look you're trying to pull off here to represent Husker Nation's mood tonight?
I am legit trying to hide out because there's a giant party going on in the other room. Even though we didn't win, there's still quite a few people celebrating for what did happen in the game. The fact that we outscored them in the second half and things seemed like we were competitive. It was pretty decent, except for little things that we can correct on defense, including Newsome. Like, man, just put your mouthpiece in and actually play defense. If he would just cover a guy worth a darn, there'd be a bunch of different plays that would have come back our way. But you're going against like a 35-year-old in O'Connell and a 32-year-old in Maccabee. And it's hard to go against a team that is so deep in age that there are a bunch of like what would be maybe an XFL team or USFL team. None of these guys are good enough for the NFL, but maybe they've got a chance to play at least professional because they've been together for 6 years. So of course they're competitive, and it was good. But I really do take away from this game the fact that we went on the road and we went toe-to-toe with Purdue, who's one of the better teams in our division. And even though we lost by a touchdown, it was close. We could have won this game.
Tim Bob, some thoughts. You're a line of scrimmage guy, man. And it was really no match for not only with Purdue, the way they were able to get the ball out with some of the slant routes, but it was a killer. I go back, and Elijah, you had just left. It was third down. There was a obvious pick play that got called, and it was 3rd and 11. Purdue had it inside their own 20 deep. And they're able to pick up a 3rd and 11. They're able to pick up a 3rd and 11, and then they keep bleeding clock. It was interesting that Brom called a couple of pass plays. Nebraska having to go with second and third team guys at linebacker tonight. Those guys had to grow up tonight. It showed a little bit. Nebraska will grow and be better from this, but really no answer with what Purdue wanted to do downhill. Nebraska had no edge set, no contain. It'd start out towards either right or left guard, and then they'd bounce outside. And I think Brandon Vogel tweeted out Purdue averaged 8 yards on first down throughout the night, and 2nd and 2 allows Brom to do whatever he wants, man, with his play calling. But the lines of scrimmage were very big. Maccabee 30 for 178, 5.9. They don't run for that in 6 games, okay, combined. But man, they went off and they handed it to Nebraska on the line.
Well, I'll agree with you. The offensive line for Purdue just manhandled up front. I do want to agree with Brandon about your top 2 linebackers, your top 2 tacklers are off. And it took a while for those younger linebackers to adjust. And I thought they did adjust in the second half, but your run defense is worst in the league, and so you're going to be able to run the football. But I do give some credit to Gifford and some of those names that I didn't even recognize on the field, playing and getting some time and playing well in the second half. Now, the big thing, you talk about time of possession, the other one is total plays for Purdue was 101, 52 for Nebraska. So that's a lot of plays for the defense to be on the field, especially young players, and trying to stop a running game that was coming at you. I really thought, the quarterback and that combination between him and that wide receiver are just, that's one of those things. They've been playing catch since they were in grade school, right? They've come together their senior year, and they're really, really tough to stop. But, it's one of those ones where Nebraska didn't give up, right? They kept coming back. I mean, literally, guys, in the past, when Nebraska's down more than 2 scores in the second half, you're thinking, well, we're go to the house. We're done. They came back, made it competitive. They got the ball. They had the matchups that they needed. Just couldn't get the stop, and that's been true for a while. You can't get the stop at the end when you need to. And I'm with Elijah. I'll tip my hat. Purdue went and won this game, but Nebraska, I still think they're in the fight. I think they can still make a bowl game. I think there's wins ahead of them, and that's what you got to look at.
Numbers to get in can react here. How you feeling as a Nebraska fan right now? Another 1 possession loss, but a different feel and look. Nebraska just didn't make some plays. It wasn't necessarily self-destruction. When we look at the recent history in Nebraska in these type of ball games, it's a situation where Nebraska did miss some tackles. Nebraska had a couple of turnovers, but it wasn't sloppy or choppy. Purdue just made more plays. They're the better football team. Rock tweets in, Mickey has this team fighting with character of a Nebraska team. The defense lost the game. This is on Prince Scott's lack of recruiting and development. There's our first blame on Frost. And, it's not necessarily wrong.
Incorrect, right.
Yeah, Mickey gets everyone's juice from gives everyone juice from what he has. Kicking teams and culture, becoming assets. They fought hard to the end. Vic chimes in from Denver. Gertie is trying to jump on the show here, apparently. Vic says, F me. That was hard. That being said, I hope the boys take this as a learning loss and can build off of it with some anger. They still have, they are still in the fight in the West, and that's it. We'll hear from Mickey Joseph, his press conference going on right now. BTN is showing that. Elijah will get that locked and loaded, so we'll hear what Mickey's thoughts are. This is just a loss is a loss, and you feel frustrated for Nebraska, for the kids, for Mickey if you're a big Red fan. The other side of it, though, is, all right, you can be proud of the effort by the team, Elijah, and that there's a little different feel. You can't say, oh, well, it's a moral victory. That's kind of out the window with what you're fighting for this season. But there is some silver linings we can focus on where, Nebraska has a difference maker, and they're able to use it in Palmer. Nebraska's got a pretty good quarterback in Casey Thompson. Nebraska still, Elijah's got to figure out their run game.
Yeah, I mean, there was a question in here in the Facebook chat. Why did Nebraska abandon the run game in the third quarter? Well, because it wasn't working. You couldn't do
I don't think
anything
they
with
abandoned it. They just chose not to go with it.
Well, they realized there was other things that were working better, like, the best player on the field, Trey Palmer. He was getting open. Casey was finding him. That was awesome. But, Purdue came in and outclassed us. They out-physicaled us. And that's what might hurt to say. But, Mickey Joseph did what he could with this team. And I'm not one to sit here and say, well, good job, Mickey Joseph. It's not that. It's the players on the field. I don't think that Scott Frost would have gone out there and lost by 30 to this Purdue team. I think he would have put this Nebraska team in the fight too. It was the simple fact of the matter was that the offensive line got out-physicaled by the Purdue defensive line. The Nebraska defensive line got out-physicaled by the Purdue offensive line. Nebraska couldn't tackle. It came down to those same fundamental issues that we were talking about 4 weeks ago. And some of those things improved. The tackling was slightly better than it was a few weeks ago, but it just came back to those same fundamental issues. Nebraska, the fundamentals of football that win you football games are winning in the trenches, winning the lines of scrimmage, tackling, and getting off the field on third down. And Nebraska did none of those three things. They didn't get off the field on third down. Purdue at 9 of 18 tonight on third down. You compare that to Nebraska, they were 3 of 9. So Purdue wins the third down battle. Purdue was clearly winning in the trenches. You can see that based on rushing yardage. You can see that based on sacks. Purdue won in the trenches. And then missed tackles from my eye test. Nebraska, it felt like was missing one every 3 to 4 plays. One tackle where you felt like, I don't want to say oh man, if you put me in there, I'm going to make that tackle, because that's a complete lie. I can't say that, but I think a competent Big Ten player would be making those tackles. So whenever you combine those three things all into one, it's not a winning formula. Purdue was the better football team tonight. I'm going to take my cap off and tip it to Purdue. They went out and won this football game. It was nothing. I don't think that Nebraska could have done better. I just don't think they're a great football team right now. I think they did what they could. They fought. They gave it their all. But at the end of the day, this Purdue team executed better. This Purdue team was more physical, and they deserved the win that they got. I'm not gonna say that Nebraska deserved to go win this football game, because they didn't. I don't even think they deserved to lose by 6. I think they deserved to lose by a hell of a lot more than that. But that's a credit to their fight. That's a credit to the mentality that Mickey Joseph has instilled within the team. They never once, put their head down and accepted defeat. They continued to fight, but they were going up against a team that was just better executed, more physical, and really at the end of the day, just a better football team than they were. So that's about what my reaction is summed up. It's not doom and gloom for me. It's just this football team ain't great right now. They're going to continue to not be great, and they're going to need some luck to go their way if they want to win, or if they want to get to bowl eligible, if they want to win 3 more football games this season. It's an uphill battle. They can still do it, but they're going to need a little bit of luck, because this just isn't a great football team.
We'll get to, the path to bowl eligibility here. Meg will weigh in, JP and Tim Bob. We'll get to the phones, though. Paul has been patiently waiting. Paul, you welcome into Real Red Reaction. You're on ESPN Lincoln. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it's tough to watch. I hate seeing the lack of a right tackle. But at the same time, we're seeing effort across the board. These guys are playing their hearts out, and I think that is in large part to the change in staff. Love Mickey Joseph. I'm praying for him. I think he's got a shot at this so long as he actually keeps the improvements. I think that we should put a floor of at least 6 wins in a bowl game for him to get the job. But at the same time, it's no, just look, are they, regardless of wins or losses, are they improving? And if so, then, yeah, help him get his best staff he can put together and take it from there. So I want to be one of the first people to congratulate them in a great effort, though an unfortunate loss.
Paul, thanks for listening. Thanks for the input. Meg, one thing Mickey has done in his career is find dudes and bring dudes to a receiver's room that dominate big games. Chase, Jefferson, Palmer went off tonight. That's, if we talk Mickey and talk about his future, head coach or still on staff, Mickey's a guy that can go find you some linemen. I know he's a receivers coach, but he can go find difference makers on all parts of the football field. You saw a guy single-handedly answer the bell time and time again for Nebraska downfield. If you had your Keno card or bingo card going on, I mean, there was a lot of large numbers that you just crossed off. Palmer made the play. Hell, Elijah's like Schmidt. They just doubled the rushing output
Right.
on the reverse. But no, Palmer's a guy we can't. We'll continue to talk about. But Palmer's one example of Mickey the recruiter, right?
Well, and what did we see tonight? Did he not? Did he set a single game Nebraska record tonight? Did he break Jamie Spillman's record? Yeah, it was eight catches for 237 yards. I mean, huge testament to him. It is kind of crazy to see. I was talking with some of my friends during the game. I'm like, we seem to have every single game this season like an offensive standout. Like if it's not Anthony Grant, it's Trey. It's someone is that little spark on the offense that we've needed to keep us in the game. And Trey was outstanding. Like that dude is athletic AF, and it was fun to watch him. It's frustrating. I feel bad for him. It's like, you can only do so much. It sucks because Anthony Grant was shut down so much we had no run game. You can't win a game without run game. It sucks. But I mean, Trey Palmer definitely showed up, man. I mean, that was just outstanding effort from him tonight. You couldn't ask for more from him on his part.
JP, gonna ask you, bud. Okay, I don't think any of us thought Mickey was going to win out. Well, after Oklahoma, but once you got it back into Big Ten play, I think we're all similar on the same page of 6-6 or better, right? That's a real thing for Nebraska fans. Get to a bowl game. What did tonight do for you with the Mickey Joseph case? The ongoing job interview, did tonight hurt or help his case, in your opinion?
I think it actually helped because it proves that as tough as this game was going to be going into West Lafayette to take on this dominant team, the fact that him and Bill Bush and Whipple were able to game plan and adjust accordingly and come out and just punch them in the mouth in the second half. The third quarter was solid. I mean, there were some mistakes here and there, and it just goes to prove that with the talent that we have and what was here before Mickey Joseph running the team compared to what is happening now, the talent that we have is what it is. And Mickey's trying, along with Bill Bush and Whipple, to make that talent good enough to compete in the Big Ten. And can you imagine if Mickey Joseph actually had a year beyond just what he could recruit, but to actually have a full team recruiting for him and trying to create a better situation for Nebraska? I think he's definitely making a case for himself. I think it's going to take a bowl game for that to happen, for him to have a chance at the head coaching job. But you know what? Right now, it's good football. There are mistakes here and there that can be cleaned up. Better tackling, better coverage by players like Newsom and whatnot. And then getting your offense going with an offensive line that we have. The fact that he and Whipple have Casey doing as much as he's doing, and able to still get the ball to Trey Palmer on some amazing throws. And they're making things happen against tough teams like Purdue. So the fact that he's doing that with what he has, and Scott Frost was unable to do that, that says a lot for him as a coach and what could be for Nebraska.
I jump in here and say obviously there's a lot of comments over here about the effort and the excitement, the enthusiasm, and those type of things. But, there were some – Casey Thompson, I know he got beat around a little bit, but, boy, he missed a touchdown in that third quarter that really stood out to me. He threw that interception that was just uncalled for. I mean, it was just a bad throw. Again, I know what quarterbacks get skitty, get knocked around, and certainly – but he's always bounced back. And those two misses really in that second half, you could see how angry Whipple was with him for that touchdown. I mean, he dropped the F-bomb. He goes, well, don't put the camera on the coach when he's pissed.
Whip's good at that, I think.
But,
artists.
So we're giving a lot of praise, like we said, but there were, it's college football and those type of things, and players make mistakes, but there was a chance to win this game. And in the Big Ten, I say you still got, even when you don't dominate, even when you don't have the best team on the field, and you figure out a way to win, that's Iowa. That's that's Big Ten football. And
It's
so
Northwestern.
that's
you know?
Northwestern, right? So Nebraska's got to figure that out too. When we're not the best team and we don't have the best night and we best players make mistakes, how do we still figure out a way to win? And that's the progress I see is that they're still in the game, even though they're not playing their best football and they don't have the best athletes.
Let's go to the lines again. Can chime in here on Real Red Reaction, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Jacob, thanks for hanging on. Welcome into Real Red Reaction. Go ahead.
David first.
David. Okay, then Jacob. David, thanks for hanging, bud. Go for it.
Hey, Chris, David up here in Minnesota. I hope you guys are well. I have to tell you, I was at the game in Rutgers last week and saw a tremendous amount of fight out of this team. I also saw that tonight, despite being outplayed on the road as 14-point underdogs. This team came out and had a chance to win, just giving up, probably 8 yards every single first down and giving up almost 40 first downs. Mickey has these guys playing not scared to lose the game at the end like we have the last few years. Love what I'm seeing, considering my expectations after we lost to Northwestern and Frost's last few games were pretty mediocre for the rest of the year. I think Mickey has a chance to save his job at the end of the year if we can get a couple big wins at the end. He's on the short list. I think he's on the short list now. But they got to win these games, and the defense has to improve. And forward to actually watching the games now, and they're kind of salvaging the air. So thanks for being on there, and love to hear you guys' take on that.
Hey, buddy. Appreciate the phone call, Dave. Good to hear from you, my man. Dave, longtime listener when he lived in Lincoln. Appreciate him checking in from Minnesota.
Can I jump in here real quick? And
go for it.
Just say he brings up good points. Yeah, Mickey Joseph has this team fighting. He has them giving effort. But is that not bare minimum for a football team? I think
it's the body language, though, that you feel great about if you're a Nebraska fan.
And I get that. I get that there is improvement from the last guy who was here. I'll name drop Scott Frost. Like there is much better effort. There is much better body language. There's much better fight. But at the end of the day, that's bare minimum for going out and playing the game of football. That's what you need to have. And yeah, it's encouraging that those things have been fixed. And I'll give full credit to Mickey Joseph for getting those things fixed. But I also don't think it takes a special head coach to go out and get those things fixed, because that is bare minimum for football. I don't want to be doom and gloom here about Mickey Joseph, but I just want to look into the stats here and say Nebraska gave up 38 first downs tonight. And Purdue, yeah, they're a good offense. They're probably the top offense in the Big Ten West, but they're not the top team in the Big Ten West in what I see. And by no means is Nebraska anywhere close to there, but 38 first downs, 608 total yards of offense. This is the best offensive output Purdue's going to have all season long. And we can say, oh yeah, the effort looked great. The team fought, but in my opinion, that's just bare minimum for football. If you play football at Nebraska, you should be giving full effort every single play. You should be fighting even whenever things aren't going your way. That's bare minimum. And I don't want to give this team credit and give them applause for doing the bare minimum of football. I'm impressed that Mickey Joseph has gotten this turned around, because that's not how this team looked 4 weeks ago. It's not how they looked a season ago. But I also don't want to sit here and say, well, yeah, good job, this Husker football team. You guys did great tonight because you fought. That's football. That's bare minimum football. You're not
But Elijah, I'm going to jump in here because that has not been the case with Nebraska football.
And
Chris and I have been there, and Nebraska football has not had that effort. You've had players who were starters who didn't want to show up until their coach was 30 seconds or 30 minutes before the game. Hey, coach, I can't go. You have not had that kind of buy-in from the players. It may be bare minimum, but Nebraska hadn't had that bare minimum in a while. In a long time they haven't had it. So I'm going to jump in here and say kids have to show up. They have to be motivated to show up. It may be bare minimum, but Nebraska hasn't had that bare minimum in at least in the
8 years.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong here. I'm not saying that I'm not happy with that. I am very happy that they're showing that, but I just think tonight's performance shows less about what Mickey Joseph is building here and more about how things were going wrong under previous administrations. And I don't want to try to sound like the doom and gloom guy, because I'm really not trying to be that guy.
You're being real.
You're just being realistic. You're just being realistic, Elijah.
I'm taking away from this game tonight, but at the end of the day, that's the bare minimum for football, to show effort. And I think that speaks less about what Mickey Joseph is building and more about how bad things were before.
Tim, Bob, I do get what you're saying. Like, yes, it's the buy-in. We haven't seen this much buy-in in a while. But I also understand, like, Elijah, I'm on board with what he says too. Like, it's frustrating still when you see like total plays when Purdue literally doubled total plays versus our, 101 versus 52. Like, that's really frustrating to see. But again, this isn't an overnight fix, so it's going to take time. But it's frustrating. This whole it's a frustrating time to wait for results.
Nebraska's just got to be better, and they're not. They're not at this point in the season. Can they get better? They're going to get better by continued coaching, right? And some development. They'll go back to practice. They'll get a bye week, and maybe it'll be a different result against Illinois. You have what you have on the roster. You have what you have through the transfer portal, and it's a contrast. I mean, Jeff Brom, what did Bush, what did Mickey, what did Whipple? To a man, they all had the same talking point of just how experienced Purdue football is, how Brom has done a great job of keeping kids in the program, like Harbaugh, like Ohio State. I mean, you're not losing kids through attrition, right? I mean, so it's a crapshoot when you go portal. It can be good, it can be bad. And Purdue, with their walk-on running back that went for 180, with their 6-year starting quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, and with their transfer in Jonesy from Iowa, right? Plus a no-name defense that got smoked by Trey Palmer. They still have that experience. They still have some of those guys. They still have that offensive and defensive line that, okay, maybe this is their first year starting together, but they've been in the program together building to get a starting job at one point in their career. With Nebraska, you have the opposite. Yeah, you have guys that have been in the program, but for whatever reason, development stunted, and you see a deficiency in the ability to run block. You've gone portal heavy for the most part with guys you're hoping will get after the quarterback, and it just never happened. I feel sick for Ty Robinson because he was in position a couple of different times to help the defense get off the field, and he just couldn't break down and change direction. The guy's a large dude. I thought Nash came in and did all right. O'Shawn was hustling off the edge, as was Caleb Tanner, but you really felt the void at linebacker with Henrich going down and with no Reimer tonight. That's where Nebraska got picked on. Not all of the missed tackles were the linebackers, but you have a guy in Vaugh that played his butt off, but he's still a drop-off, right, compared to the normal starters. And even Ernest Hausman, who a year ago's playing on Friday Night Lights, playing high school ball. I mean, both those guys manned up and gave their best, but it's still one guy that's not seen a lot of time, that's been in the program for a while, and a new guy that's a freshman that got called into duty. And Nebraska's not in position to go on the road against Purdue or very many people right now, just because of where their program's at, what the development's been like on the lines of scrimmage, where Nebraska does have a shot in this gunfight is with the Palmers and the Caseys, right? So they got to figure out their run game. Let's go to the phones real quick. We'll continue on here with Real Red Reaction. Is Jacob still holding, Elijah? Okay, Jacob, the floor is yours. Thanks for your patience.
Yes, I'm here.
You're on. Go ahead, bud.
Okay, so I think, obviously the defense is struggling and the offense looks pretty good. I think the fight that these players have that you can see on the field is excellent. And what the coaching staff that they're dealing with now is doing a good job. You can't put anything back on the previous coaching staff because they're fighting. They're out there, they're fighting hard. So it's good to see. We have a tough defense. Offense is playing good. I hate the negativity that gets thrown around out there all the time. We were right there today.
Well, and that is okay for some Nebraska fans. and you want to see how they can continue to get better as the season moves forward, Jacob. Just not enough. Margin for error is still an issue with Nebraska. Nebraska's either got to get some help or be lights out, and that's a big ask in college football. Thanks for your phone call. Thanks for tuning in. Numbers to dial up at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. It's Real Red Reaction. Meg and JP from 96 Kicks. Tim Bob Kitzmiller, Elijah Herbels back at the ESPN Lincoln Studios. I don't have a Husker den anymore because I've been married for almost 20 years. Either packed up or in the garage, but I'm in my timeout room, as it's called. So that's where I'm at. And I got Gertie the German Shepherd won't even come hang out with me now. We'll get to more of your comments here on the stream. You can watch us and also comment as well as dial in. We gave you those phone numbers again at 466-3776. But you can watch us on different platforms with the Alpha Media family, 96 Kicks Facebook, KFOR Facebook, and KFOR and ESPN Lincoln Twitter. Also ESPN Lincoln Facebook, and the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel. That's right. Check out the stream there. And Hail Varsity Radio at H Varsity Radio is the Twitter handle you can follow. Elijah and I'd love you to do that. Also follow 96 Kicks Twitter and KFOR Twitter. And we're streaming on all those platforms. Let's go to the phones real quick. Jeff is going to chime in here. Jeff, thanks for calling. Welcome into Real Red Reaction. Thanks for calling.
Hey, I love the show. Watch the game tonight. If anything, I was concerned and disappointed in the third quarter. I thought Nebraska had a chance to take the lead in the ball game, and we just didn't do that. At times, I thought that we should have continued the running game that we had going in the first half. I did like to see the play out of Casey. I think that Mickey is doing a great job. I see a big difference in the kids. There's a big difference in the fan base now that Mickey is here. And I would like to think that Mickey wouldn't have to go 6-6 to possibly get this job. I think he's turning around quite a lot of things in a short amount of time, and I'll listen to what you guys think.
Hey, thanks for the phone call, Jeff. Appreciate you chiming in. And JP, go to you, and then Meg, you follow. That's the consensus. And Bob, jump in here as well. The consensus is, all right, based on how this thing could have gone or was supposed to go with the transition and the departures and the dismissals in Ireland. I mean, the good point this week is it was meaningful football in October, right? You didn't think that was going to happen after Ireland or after Oklahoma, but you found a way against Indiana. You hung on against Rutgers. You were right there tonight. So JP, I'll ask you about what's your optimism level moving forward? Does this take you back a little bit because it was one that was really big and could have kept you in pole position for the West, or was this a tough ask? Vegas said it was, and Nebraska's gotten more swings at the plate, so to speak, the rest of the season. Are you at a tipping point after this one with the rest of the year?
No, and I don't think so. I think this is just one that we knew was going to be a very big challenge. The fact that we went into Rutgers and actually came from behind to hold them to no points in the second half, we outscored them by 1 to win the whole thing. That was surprising. This game was pretty much the way it was going to be. The fact that we only lost by a touchdown was tremendous for what this squad is. Can you imagine, though, if we had Purdue's offensive line, how good our offense would be? Because they've been there forever and they've been coached up properly. If we had that here, it'd be a completely different game. We probably would have dominated that game and won handily and came back to Nebraska to get a bye week off and get ready to take Illinois on. I think what will be the true test for this team is preparing this week off for Illinois at home. If we can beat Illinois at home, that will show you what kind of squad we have for the rest of the season. If we don't and they beat us, then it's like, all right, well, then they've done what they can with what they have, and what they've been given, the tools that they have, and we'll just have to ride it out and see what happens in the offseason. But I personally, watching this game, even though we got dominated here and there, for the most part, our team was in it with Purdue on a lot of different plays. And there were just little things, not being able to get any kind of pressure on the quarterback, not being able to stop their running back. And then, like Quentin Newsome, I don't know how many times he made a mistake against a wide receiver that if he would have just popped his mouthpiece in his mouth and covered him a little bit better instead of throwing his hands up in the air like he did some kind of great play, if there was just that little shift in your attitude and just focus on the game itself and just go in there and hit people and get people down, the little mistakes that we made is the reason why we lost to Purdue by 7 instead of beating them by 7. It was just the little mistakes.
A lot of things that needed to be better weren't.
Yeah.
Meg, how about you? What's your outlook right now after this loss?
It's kind of funny. Aren't we so funny as Husker fans? Because whenever we lose, it's so doom and gloom for us, and we're just sitting here picking it apart and saying everything we did wrong. I'm actually a little surprised at all of the optimism, and not in a bad way. It's just funny because it's not in our nature as of late. But there is a lot to hang our hat on. It is frustrating to see things like the lopsided time of possession, lopsided amount of plays in the game. It's really frustrating to see, Purdue's rushing yards versus our rushing yards, things like that. But I think moving forward, continuing to work on these things, you do see, you feel it. It's almost palpable, this shift in attitude from the players, from the guys. It's just cleaning up these messes that we have on both offense and defense. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's crazy to call us a 6-win team, which is kind of funny and sad at the same time. We're like, oh, we just want 6 wins this season. But I mean, I don't know. It's not out of reach,
No, Elijah hop in, and then Tim Bob also. If I'm being real honest, you needed to find a way to steal this one tonight, okay, for bowl eligibility. It's not that you can't get it done, but it's going to be real hard to get it done. If Purdue runs for $180 on you with a walk-on, kudos to him. What's Brown and the pig farmer going to do in 2 weeks? Okay, well, there's some. What's Ibrahim and Minnesota going to do in 3 weeks? I mean, so Michigan and what they want to do in ground and pound. I mean, it could get really. And then you got Braylon at Allen in Wisconsin. I mean, you've got a murderer's row of offensive
gauntlet
and running backs licking their chops if Purdue can go for 2 bills on you, Elijah.
Yeah, and that's why I mean I'm 50-50 on the positives and the negatives from this game tonight. And that's one of the big negatives is the fact that the things that make a good defense, Nebraska did just about none of them tonight. They gave up leaky yardage. They didn't get off the field on 3rd down. And they couldn't get after the quarterback. They let Charlie Jones run wild on them. I think it was 12 catches on 15 targets for 140 yards, give or take, somewhere in there. I'm pretty close to my stats there. I'm going off just top of my head here, but the little things that make you a good defense, the little things that make you a good offense, Nebraska isn't doing any of those right now. And the fight's there, the effort's there. I think they're behind the 8 ball in terms of where the development has been within this program for a couple of years now. And I'm not going to sit here and blame the players. But the simple fact of the matter is this is just not a great football team right now. And whenever I look at the stretch run, what's coming up with this schedule, you're going up against the class of the Big Ten West right now in Illinois. They're coming to your backyard in 2 weeks. And from what I saw tonight, I don't think Nebraska is going to stand a chance in that game against Illinois. They're great on both sides of the ball. And as crazy as it sounds, I think it's going to be Illinois versus Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. At least that's what my eyes see right now. And then as you mentioned, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, all these teams are teams that Nebraska is going to struggle with just simply based on matchups. And we'll see what Mickey can get done here in the next 6 weeks. This next couple of weeks is going to be a lot more important than the previous couple weeks in terms of Mickey's status with the permanent head coaching gig. You're going up against teams now that you should be beating, the teams that you've been playing for years now that on paper you have more talent than. It comes down to development, and Nebraska hasn't been developed in the same way over the past couple of seasons. So let's see what Nebraska can do in these next couple of games. I don't think that bowl eligibility is 100% required for Mickey Joseph to earn the permanent head coaching gig. But based on whatever I saw tonight, I don't think Nebraska is on the path towards bowl eligibility. There's just way too many problems within this team, way too many little things that they don't do right now. And they're moving that direction. They're getting better. And I just think they're up against a time crunch. I don't think they're going to have enough time to get those things fixed this season, but things are moving in the right direction. I know that sounds crazy after all the doom and gloom I was bringing earlier in the show. Things are moving in the right direction, but as a Husker fan, I think you should have to sit back and go, man, how far have the expectations fallen over the past couple seasons that you look at a 43-37 loss to Purdue and you say, you know what? I think that's a positive. I think that's a moral victory. I don't think it's that anything about this night is a moral victory because Purdue lets you hang around. They gave you chances to go win this football game. If your defense could get off the field on that final drive, whenever you had a great chance, 4th and 1, 3rd and 11, you had multiple good chances to get yourself off the field and get your offense back on the field, give yourself a chance to win. You couldn't get those little things done. So it's just a disappointing loss night for Nebraska. I do think they're moving in the right direction, but I don't think they're moving in the right direction fast enough for it to make a difference this season, and I don't think they're moving in a fast or the right direction fast enough for me to say that things are going to get better in the near future at all. I think it's going to be a lot more like this, and close loss is better than a big loss, but a loss is still a loss.
Well, and Nebraska made enough plays to stay in this game, Tim Bob, and moving forward, let's do a little throwback. How about a 5-2 defense?
Gonna go the old 5-2, are we? Gonna go.
Should be the old Mike Petco jersey, and let's rock and roll. Both football.
5-2 and play. I don't think that will play in today's game when they spread you out wide and make your defense run with your backs down.
It'll work against Wisconsin.
Well, you gotta have those. You gotta have athletes on those outside to be able to run like linebackers instead of old school off the corner. Trev Albert rushing the quarterback. But, I said a few weeks ago that Nebraska fans want effort. They want enthusiasm. They want kids to show up and care. And I think they're getting that. And so, yeah, the level of play has fallen. The level of talent has fallen. And that's a realization that Nebraska is going to have to get their head around because it is what it is, right? I mean, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? So you got what you got. So get behind the team that's out there and the enthusiasm and the kids playing hard. I mean, I'll say what my college coach said, any man who will put his livelihood and the future of his family in the hands of 18 to 20-year-old kids is a fool bound for disappointment because they make mistakes. They do stupid stuff. They don't execute. So that's why we love college football. And we can't be mad at it because of what we've got. So, I think the Husker fans, I see a lot of positive, like Meg mentioned, a lot of enthusiasm because we feel like we're in this together, right? And it hasn't felt like that in a while. You got kids from Lincoln, kids from Nebraska out there competing hard and playing with heart, and that's what you want. And again, I'm with Elijah. I get your point 100%. We don't have the offensive line to line up, and it's not the pipeline, right? And you don't have the defensive line to get the pressure. But they're making adjustments. The coaches are trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear at this point, and I think there's some opportunities. Again, I worry about the running game against Iowa and against some of these teams coming up. Michigan may score 100 on us. I mean, honestly, that offensive line, that running back may have 500 yards. He may pull a Wisconsin on us. But I think there is an opportunity to get some wins to finish this season, and that's what you need. And again, it's going to be hard with those linebackers out. I hope that Heinrich and can't think at the moment, but Reimer, thank you, is having an old man moment. It's late. It's past my bedtime. That's my take. I think we're getting what we want as fans, effort, and even though we're not dominating, we're staying in games, and we're not quitting, and we're within 6 points of a team, like JP said, that probably should have just pounded and won that game by 14 as they predicted, or even 21 at one point. I thought they're going to get blown out here, but they didn't quit. And so I can live with that.
Nebraska is at a point where effort and heart are what you're looking for in a football team, because you're not sure if the wins are going to follow. And Nebraska fans, I think, have accepted that. And they're just proud of how the kids have responded, and that's what you got to roll with. We'll take more of your calls and thoughts here. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get more calls in here on Real Red Reaction, presented by Currency. Number to get in, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. The party is dispersing at Casa de Schmidt. Coach Brett and his giant cooler. That cooler is empty. Nick and Dana are waving goodbye. I think Jay Bird's still going for a little bit more Tito's. And Bolty and his sweaty meatballs are still, I think they're about gone. We did 3 racks of ribs, and we also did the short ribs, the beef ribs, and then
yum.
The
so they were
short
pretty
ribs
good.
Yeah.
Those were fantastic.
Were the regular ribs a little dry?
I
thought
quite
they were
enjoyed
okay.
them. I thought they were really good.
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
quite happy.
we knocked it out. Even Roz got into some pizza. Nick is waving and saying goodbye.
Thanks, Vinny.
Thank you, brother. Nick was like, oh, they missed the extra point. Nebraska's going to win this thing 44-43. Book it is what he was saying. He was threatening a trip to the boats tonight if it happened.
Oh, wow.
Right. Oh, wow is right. Corey chimes in. Hard fought. Again, back to that, right? Hard fought, but the defense couldn't make a stop in the end. And time of possession wore out the defense. It was closer than I expected. Jeff's on the line. Let's go there, Elijah. We'll get more of your thoughts, Meg and JP, here in a minute. Also, Elijah Herbal back at our ESPN Lincoln studios. And Tim Bob Kitzmiller is in. Jeff, thanks for calling in. Go ahead.
Hey, I just want to restate, I love the show, but honestly, if you don't go with Mickey, who loves the Nebraskan kids, who knows Nebraska, knows our real culture, he played for it. He played for Osborne. What are you going to do? Who are you going to get? You going to get the guy from Kansas who couldn't beat Oklahoma? You're going to get the guy from Iowa State, same old, and you're going to bring in somebody that's got $40 million in the bank? Matt's not going to be happy in Lincoln. So who are you going to get? And really, Nebraska shouldn't expect to win any more games the rest of the season, but I bet we do. But who are you going to get to come here?
Mickey's intriguing because of his recruiting prowess. Really, it comes down to, I think he's getting more comfortable with the head job. Jeff, thanks for the phone call. But, if you're Trev, you've got to follow through on this national search and see who's a builder and who's a developer. There are coaches out there that are more experienced in that. And just because Kansas has dropped 2 in a row, or Iowa State's dropped 4 in a row, or Aranda's 3-3, Gertrude, what are you doing? Drop it. No, thank you. Sorry. And then you have Matt Rule. Yeah, does he want to build? Is he a guy that had pretty great recruiting regions to go into in Philly and in Waco or the state of Texas? You still won. You still developed. I mean, there's a lot. Kleiman, K-State, I think he's really happy. I don't know, Jeff, that any of those guys that we just mentioned are willing to take on the Nebraska project. I really don't, because of where they are at compared to where they're coming from. I mean, they're treated like kings right now, even Campbell. Say Campbell doesn't win another game, okay? He at least beat Iowa this year, right? And there'll be a little bit of rumbling here or there, but for the most part, man, the fan base is like, we're lucky to have this guy. He's good. He's shown the ability to be good. And that's something that not necessarily the Nebraska fan base, but the powers that be and some of the fan base 9 wasn't good enough. 10 wasn't good enough. So you reap what you sow in that aspect. I don't know what the answer is going to be. Do you ask Mickey to take the job? Has he done enough? Will he continue to do enough to? He's already getting considered. Does he get the offers? The question. But if I'm Trev, I gotta turn over a lot of rocks. I got to make a lot of phone calls. I got to do what's best in the interest of Nebraska football long term. It's not that Mickey's excluded. Absolutely not. And a loss doesn't eliminate him from contention. It doesn't. It shouldn't. But I think if you're making the assumption that all these guys that have run into some hard times this season, Big 12 is a great conference this year. I mean, it's murder. I mean, it's one on top of the other. You get a big win, and then you lose a tight one the following week. Look at TCU. They're still unscathed, but Oklahoma's right there, right? Baylor's 3-3. They went out to West Virginia and got beat Thursday night. No business, but it happens. So you got to keep all options open, in my humble opinion. But no, we're not crossing Mickey off the list because of a loss, and I don't think you should.
Well, I think we're still a month away from Trev realistically needing to start drilling down and figure out who his guy is going to be. It's way too early to be locked in on one candidate. And I'm sitting here, I'm impressed with what Mickey has put together so far. And Jeff mentioned the fact that, well, you want the guy who couldn't beat Oklahoma. Well, do you want the guy who couldn't beat Purdue? If we're looking at a one-season sample size, it's completely
one game
sample. You can't go that small a sample size. You're looking at an entire body of work, like a guy who's managing hiring at any Fortune 500 company is not just looking at what you've done in the past year. They're looking at your entire resume before they make a decision. Yeah, we've got a great guy in here who's been doing good things, but hey, guess what? We got another guy at this other Fortune 500 company who took them from this to this. And sorry, I'm not in Fortune 500 companies, so maybe this isn't the best analogy here, but it's just crazy, I think, to be here after 4 games from Mickey Joseph where he's 2-2 and say, you know what? That's my guy. And I'm not behind the scenes. I'm not seeing the culture that Mickey's building, but you have to completely go vet out your
on the field.
And you want to hire the best guy. If you get to the end of the search process and you decide, you know what, Mickey is the best guy for the job, so be it. But you're not even close to the end of that process right now. I think there's a lot of other great candidates out there that you will go stack up to Mickey's entire body of work. You're going to get to mid-November. You're going to look at Mickey's body of work, and you're going to go look at what a guy like Matt Rule has done through his 2 stints, which has been phenomenal. He was great at Temple and he was great at Baylor. And you can scream all you want about the top 25 losses. It doesn't matter. In his 7 seasons as a head football coach, he made a conference title game 3 times. That is a phenomenal record. He got his teams to 11 wins twice in each location, Temple and Baylor. That's a hard thing to do anywhere. You look at Leipold. Leipold has gone and won so many Division II national titles, and he's really had success every single place that he has gone. And there's still a lot of season left for Kansas, but he has done great wherever he's gone. You've got to look at that entire resume before you make a decision. With Mickey, he sent talent to the NFL at LSU. He went and won a national title at LSU. He was great there. He's one of the best recruiters in the country and probably the best recruiter you're going to get to Nebraska. He understands the culture. That factors in, but Trev's also seeing what's going on behind the scenes. So for us as fans to be locked in on October 15th and say, you know what, there's no guy out there that's better than Mickey is a ridiculous take to have. There's a lot of this season left, and we haven't seen the full Mickey Joseph body of work. There's still a lot left in this season before I think I can look back and say, you know what, Mickey's the guy. Because right now, to me, Mickey has not proven that he is better than the other guys that are eligible out there. He still has a chance to do that, but he has not proven it in my eyes just yet. Things are better, but I think taking a program and trending it upwards is a very low bar to hit in order to be considered for the head coaching gig.
Gertie thinks that's a well-positioned filibuster for one Elijah Herbal. Tim Bob Kitzmiller's here. JP from 96 Kicks. JP, have you how many locks do you have on your door to keep from being bombarded, or is the party winding down at your place?
Literally everyone is downstairs. I'm upstairs, just kind of huddled into the cave here so I can focus.
You're in the attic.
Exactly, pretty much. Everybody else is, and that's the thing I've noticed a lot on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and even here at the party I'm at, is the positivity. Like Meg mentioned earlier, there's a lot of positivity towards what this team could be and will be in the future. And is it Mickey Joseph? Right now, it's not a bad option. I mean, if he can get us to a bowl game with 6 wins, that'd be great. And have him build from there. Like you said, he's a tremendous recruiter. Bill Bush and him have worked together before at LSU. Whipple is doing pretty dang good himself. But who says we can't get like a Dave Aranda to come to town? And Mickey goes back to the spot he was before, and Dave and Mickey and Bill have all worked together. Like what says that would work, and we could put together a solid squad in that aspect of it. But I think Mickey's a very good choice in the fact that he knows the culture of Nebraska football. He knows how to recruit. He definitely knows how to connect with the players, because the fact that he's able to do a complete 180 on this squad compared to what we were experiencing at the beginning of the season, it says a lot for his character as a person, as a coach, as a man developing these kids. I can guarantee you they're going to be ready to smash Illinois in the mouth the best they can when that weekend's game comes up, and it's because of Mickey Joseph.
And I'll give full credit to Mickey Joseph here. Sorry, I feel like I've been talking a lot recently. Mickey's done a great job, but as we hear more and more coming out about the incompetence of what the previous staff had, I mean, what they were leading from the top with the incompetence that they had, I sit back and I go, yeah, there's probably a lot of coaches out there that get this program trending upwards because of the way it was trending before. And I'm not sitting here saying, you know what, Mickey Joseph isn't doing a good job. I want to make that clear, because I know there's listeners at all different levels of sobriety. They're probably picking up different things, little bits and pieces. I am giving full credit to Mickey Joseph for what he has built right now, but you don't want to like get lost in the forest because you can't see through the trees. And I messed up that saying, whatever. Like, you don't want to be so deep in here that you are locked in saying, you know what, Mickey's our guy, because this is the most important hire, I would go as far as to say, in the history of Husker football, based on where the Husker football team is at right now.
Yes.
Most important hire, because if you mess up one more hire, the football program at we know and love it, Nebraska, could forever change. It could be a completely different thing moving forward if you mess up this hire again. The fan apathy has already started to come about, and bringing in Mickey Joseph has started to bring some of that back, but it's the most important hire. So you on October 15th can't say, you know what, Mickey's the guy because he has this program trending slightly upward. Based on what I've heard about the incompetence that was going on behind the scenes from the last regime, that's a very, very low bar. And there's plenty of coaches out there that I think could get this program trending slightly upwards, get them playing with effort, get them playing with intensity, and getting them to care. That's a low bar. And that's not a discredit to Mickey Joseph. I think he's done a great job so far, but I just don't think there's a full enough body of work for me to sit back and say, you know what, Mickey's the guy.
For those of us streaming on Real Red Reaction TV on YouTube, on KFOR, on 96 Kicks, Facebook, at ESPN Lincoln, Facebook, Twitter, where you can also watch us at ESPN Lincoln, KFOR, and Hail Varsity Radio Twitter handle as well. We're streaming as well as on air, ESPN Lincoln, ESPNLincoln.com. Some of you got to see Jules. She walked in over here. She was asking about the microphone. I was like, no, it's a microphone. The
people who don't work in our field are just so enamored by all of our equipment.
Yeah, I said, go have another shot, sweetie. That's okay. Brody chimes in and just big time with his praise for Trey Palmer. Trey's unbelievable. Brennan, a good take here. No Reimer, no Hendricks killed Nebraska. Ty Robinson had a tough night. Really thought we were getting an upgrade in passing with Casey over Adrian, but not seeing it as of late. And let's dive in here to the quarterback battle here. We're going to take a break here in a couple of minutes. I want to hit this point before a break, and then we'll hear from Mickey Joseph. More of your calls and emails as well. Probably about 30 to 45 more minutes of Real Red Reaction. But quarterback play was a difference, right? You don't ever want to make it a one-on-one deal because there's 10 others that make it happen. Casey was huge with some big plays. Got Nebraska back into it, tied the ball game a couple of different times. 2 interceptions were tough. And to Tim Bob's point, after the Palmer reverse to get it inside the 10, right? That monster play, you're forced to a field goal. You miss a couple of passes. and that was it. And it really came down to ball placement by the quarterback. And I think Casey knows he needs to be better. And I think there was a lot of times, Elijah, we'll start with you and go around the horn, where Casey, I mean, he gets PTSD, man. He'll get hit a couple of times. He'll get jacked a couple of times. And he won't be settled to either read his progressions or make his throw, or he'll get rid of it too quick because of the fear factor, the fear that he's going to get ravaged, trying to wait for someone to get open. And that it came down to quarterback play. It came down to protection tonight.
Came down to protection, but also you should understand Aiden O'Connell's probably the best quarterback Nebraska is going to be playing this season. Aiden O'Connell is a dude. He's a gamer. His ball placement for the most part
107.
It was pretty much perfect tonight.
He's a man. Exactly.
Go back to that last touchdown. The ball placement on that last touchdown was picture perfect. And it's one of those things that you know what? It's hard to go up and to compare Casey Thompson to a guy like Aiden O'Connell. Aiden O'Connell has had chemistry with all his receivers. He's had consistency with his quarterback. He's been playing in the same scheme for years. He's had success, and he has a great offensive line to protect him. It's a little unfair to Casey Thompson to compare him apples to Aiden O'Connell. I think most reasonable Husker fans coming into this game knew that Purdue had the advantage in the quarterback battle from Aiden O'Connell. Casey Thompson, I don't think was bad tonight. I think he did what he could behind a poor offensive line. The offense line did a lot better job protecting him in the second half, and you saw the results that came of that. He was able to find Trey Palmer, and Trey Palmer, as I said earlier in the show, was the best player on the football field tonight. I think Purdue was better in 21 out of 22 spots. I think Trey Palmer was the one guy among 11 for Nebraska, or among 22, if you want to go both sides of the ball, that was better than Purdue. That difference was huge. Casey was able to find him in the second half, but at the end of the day, Purdue was just the better all-around football team, and that includes not only Aiden O'Connell, but also includes their entire defense. Their defensive line was able to get after Casey Thompson and make him uncomfortable. Casey didn't have a bad game, didn't have a great game. It's one of those games I think goes down as just a middle-of-the-road Casey Thompson game. If he had some more help, maybe his stats would have looked a little bit better, but he also missed some throws, and the one that stands out in my mind is that one to Alante Brown on the goal line. So he could have been better. He could have been worse. It was what I've come to expect from a guy like Casey Thompson. I don't think he had a whole bunch of help around him aside from Trey Palmer. So Casey Thompson not losing this football game, just like Aiden O'Connell didn't go win Purdue the football game. Aiden O'Connell was great, but he had help around him. That's what won Purdue the football game. Casey Thompson had one guy helping him, and that's what lost Nebraska the football game.
Tim Bob, it's amazing that Nebraska's, we can look at it another way. It's amazing Nebraska's in it with 5 minutes left as one-dimensional as they are.
Well, I think that's right. I mean, you come in and like I said, Purdue is a better football team, and you're still in the game, right? I'll give some credit here to the coaching, to Whipple's adjustments, and to the defensive adjustments. I mean, you lose both linebackers and playing some young dudes, and you make some adjustments, and you don't back away from it. I love that about the defense is willing to go out there and man up and play tough and try to bring pressure and not just lay back like the previous defense in the first few weeks was. Again, you're going to be outmanned. You are what you are, and still have some fight and have a chance to win. Casey Thompson, he made some mistakes tonight. Again, offensive line, I'm with you. I've been a quarterback when you don't trust your offensive line, and that's a scary spot to be in. I can guarantee you when the lookout blocks come and you take one in the back of the head a couple of times, you go, this isn't what I signed up for. I just want to throw the ball deep, So I get that. I've been there, I can throw a great deep ball. I just didn't necessarily like standing in there and taking one in the chin. So I got nothing against, that when Casey gets a little happy feet. But at the same time, I think there's wins. I think Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa are beatable, and I think Michigan's going to beat the heck out of them. But again, I'm always an optimist, right? And I don't know what's going to happen with Illinois. The pig farmer's going to come in and run the football, but I don't know. We'll see if they can stop the passing game that maybe gets energized from tonight's performance.
JP and then Meg. You know, JP, imagine what Casey could be if he had. I think he's got a great back. He doesn't have Robinson behind him like he did at Texas, but poor old Grant needs more touches and he needs running room. And the sooner that happens, you can go get 37 points and be balanced. You know what? You got 37 points just chucking it pretty much tonight.
Well, that's the thing is flip the quarterback for O'Connell for Purdue and put Casey behind that offensive line. What kind of game this would have been with an athlete and a bunch of athletes on that front line. I don't know how many times our left tackle or our right tackle or both just about got their quarterback killed today. Like, I don't know how many times Casey took a hit that he shouldn't have taken because somebody missed their block. And if we would have had an offensive line like Purdue did, we would have probably won by 21. And that would have given Grant the chance to run the ball more. And yet did okay. And Casey would have been a lot safer. There's a lot of what ifs if we had the talent on the front line. And that's been the biggest bugaboo about this whole thing is we lost what was supposed to be one of our top linemen to a substance abuse issue or whatever. He's out for the entire season. And then we're having to shuffle this offensive. How many times have they shuffled this offensive line around where somebody's playing left tackle one day, they're playing right guard the next? Is they're still trying to figure out who is going to be what in what position. And that's tough to do during the season. You got to get that locked in ahead of time. So if Casey was behind the Purdue offensive line, it would have been a completely different game. It would have been a different game, and we probably would have won by at least 3 touchdowns because he would have had the time to do what he can do behind a protective line. And he did pretty well for what he had.
Well, there's a little point to make here, JP. If you flip the quarterbacks, if Aiden O'Connell is playing for Nebraska and Casey Thompson is playing for Purdue, I think Purdue wins this football game because I don't think it came down to the quarterbacks tonight winning and losing. It was the guys surrounding who won the football game. I think, and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just kind of adding to your point here, and I think trying to illustrate your point, if you will.
Well, I think Aiden McConnell would have probably gotten clobbered if he was behind our offensive line. I mean, it's just an unfortunate situation that we have to deal with right now. Hopefully they can build that and find the right kind of guys to get in there, and we can build it. But, yeah, it would have been a different situation if Aiden O'Connell was our quarterback and dealing with that offensive line. I don't think he would have been as successful tonight, like you said.
You know, I want to ask you, Meg, what's your reaction to 13 touches for Anthony Grant?
I mean, great. But we didn't have a run game all night. I mean, that's frustrating.
But just 2 receptions, though.
Right. Great. I mean, it's frustrating. That was frustrating not to see him a part of our offense as much as he has been in the past, I guess. That's just, yeah. I mean, that's my genuine reaction to that.
Frustrating, but he was ineffective.
He was very ineffective.
Fair.
He was very ineffective. But also, what do you do when you have a line that he can't Le'Veon Bell through a line the whole damn season either? That's frustrating.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. So if he's going to be ineffective, and that's no fault of his own, take some touches away from him, give him to Trey Palmer. As I said, Trey Palmer is the best player in the field tonight. They made a concerted effort to get Trey Palmer the ball. You saw it on the reverse. You saw it, with just how many times they targeted him in the second half. They were trying to take advantage of Purdue deep with Trey Palmer, and when it connected, it looked great. That they were just taking touches away from a guy who was ineffective tonight in Anthony Grant and giving it to a guy who was very effective tonight in Trey Palmer. I mean, the coaching staff put this team in a place where it was probably the best chance to win. The defense took away a lot of the ground game from Purdue in the second half until it mattered. And Nebraska completely went away from the running game because it was completely ineffective. You went to a passing game, which did work better when Casey Thompson had time to throw. So it's not like the play calling was bad. I don't think that the distribution of touches was bad. You went to what worked, and the testament to that is the fact that you only lost this game by 6 points despite the other team absolutely kicking the hell out of you in the stats. And the stats don't tell a full story, but based on my eye test and based on what I saw from the stats, Purdue was a much better football team tonight, and the coaching staff gave their team a chance to win this football game by the positions that they put them in. So I'm not going to sit here and bemoan the fact that Anthony Grant only got this many touches, because at the end of the day, he was ineffective tonight, and you were giving the ball to guys who were a lot more effective than he was. And I'm not saying he had a bad game. I just don't think he was very effective tonight, and that could be a fault of his own. That could be a fault of the offensive line. I'm not here to point fingers. I need to go back and watch the film. I'm going to sound like Scott Frost and say, well, I'm not going to say anything like that. Watch the film first, but
I'm saying you got a guy like Grant and 13 touches, and if it ain't happening on the ground, which it hasn't, you find ways to check it down, perhaps. Now, the other side of it is they kept going back to the well of Palmer, and that worked great. I mean, you were responding score-wise, getting the ball to Palmer. The other point about stats here is this. How many times did O'Connell drop back? 55? You know what? Cue up a little Sammy Hagar. 55. You had a whopping 0 quarterback hurries tonight.
Insane.
0 quarterback hurries and 55 pass attempts. You had 2 tackles for a loss, 0 sacks.
And wasn't Casey sacked 4 times in the first?
A little bit of a rush. That last one when Ty Robinson smashed him in the mouth, he had a little bit of pressure.
It does not count as a hurry because you're flagged for roughing, Tim Bob.
Right. But wasn't Casey sacked 4 times in the first half for like a loss, like 38 yards? Like, insane.
He got it back on his 30-yard scramble.
Insane.
There was cheers in my living room. The quarterback ran it. Let's take a timeout. Elijah, do we have a couple of spots to burn?
Oh, we got plenty. Let me tell you what.
All right, let's take a timeout. Go get your sippy cup filled back up, JP. And Meg. Meg's got her Yeti going. Tim Bob's contemplating. I see the wheels turning. Elijah wants an idea of something. And I'm going to go make sure the Labradoodle hasn't eaten a full pizza yet. And we'll take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll hear from Mickey Joseph. And it's going to be last call for some calls as well. So get in here on Real Red Reaction. We're streaming live on KFOR and 96 Kicks Facebook, also ESPN Lincoln Facebook. And you can watch us on Twitter on ESPN Lincoln and KFOR's Twitter channel, the Hail Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and then the Real Red Reaction YouTube channel. Quick timeout, and then we'll hear from Mickey Joseph. Next, it's Real Red Reaction. We're presented by Currency.
Husker fans, time to get real. Real about the Huskers. Real about every play. Real about every call. Get real and say it all without the university muzzle. As soon as the whistle blows, the ESPN Lincoln Real Red Reaction Show goes live with your calls, opinions, and rants. All uncensored. Powered by Currency. Watch it live after every game on ESPN Lincoln Facebook and on air from ESPN Lincoln 101.5 FM.
Ad paid for by the Sentinel Group. Attention Marines, military personnel, families, and contractors who were stationed at Camp Lejeune. Were you present at Camp Lejeune between August 1953 and December of 1987? You may be entitled to significant compensation. For nearly 34 years, those in the Marine Corps' base Camp Lejeune were exposed to contaminated drinking water, resulting in devastating injuries, including several forms of cancer, adverse birth outcomes, Parkinson's disease, and more. North Carolina's procedural laws have prevented victims from getting the justice they deserve, but passage of the Camp Lejeune Justice Act of 2022 would allow you or a loved one to file lawsuits seeking compensation for illnesses and injuries linked to the toxic water. Call today for your free consultation. 800-610-9256. Let our experienced attorneys fight to get you the compensation you deserve, and you pay nothing unless there's a recovery in your favor. Call 800-610-9256. That's 800-610-9256. Again, 800-610-9256.
Wendy's new French toast sticks are so delicious, some are saying that they're better than their mom's breakfast.
Excuse me, did you just say Wendy's new French toast sticks are better than my breakfast?
Mom, is that you?
Answer the question.
I said some people are saying that because they're so crispy on the outside and fluffy on the inside and perfect in every way.
Uh-huh. And what do you think?
I think it's time to tell people to choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new sweet and crispy home-style French toast sticks.
That's still not an answer.
At participating U.S. Wendy's during breakfast hours. The new Google Pixel 7 Pro is super, especially when it's on Verizon, the network America relies on. It's supercharged, super powered, and a super
deal.
You know it. Now, switch to Verizon and get the Google Pixel 7 Pro on us with select trade-ins and select 5G unlimited plans.
That really is super.
Yep, there's never been a better time to switch to Verizon. $899.99 device payment purchase with new smartphone line on select 5G unlimited plans required. $200 Verizon e-gift card with ported. Less $700 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. 0% APR. Trade-in conditions and additional terms apply.
Just announced Carrier Cool Cash rebates. Call Wilman Heating and Air Conditioning to learn how an efficient home comfort system by Carrier can let you create a healthy, more comfortable indoor environment for your home and lifestyle. With up to $1,750 in Carrier Cool Cash rebates or special financing, explore what's possible with Carrier. Incentives will vary. Ask Wilman for details. Turn to the experts. Wilman Heating and Air Conditioning, your factory authorized dealer for Carrier products. WilmanHeating.com.
Honey, we're going in.
I'm scared.
Me too. Here we go. You fine folks need a new car? Don't let go of my hand.
You fine folks need a new car.
Honey.
Mark.
Ready for something better? Mullen Motors has a great selection of late model cars, trucks, and SUVs available now. Check out the inventory at MikeMullenMotors.com.
No taglines, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Everyone's so busy, the full moon's coming. I'm scared my store will look like a ghost town. Hey, Joe Clemens here from Capital City Automax. I need to get live bodies in the door right now. That's why I'm helping you drive for $5. For a limited time, you can drive a nicer, newer car for just $5 down. Plus, trade in any car, dead or alive, and we'll help you go home in a nicer, newer ride with just $5 down. Are you terrified your credit won't get qualified? Relax. My one and only for the people credit approval process has the bankers moaning and groaning to keep on loaning. Even if you've been turned down before. Pick out a nicer, newer ride and drive home today for just $5 down. Stop driving a car you hate and drive for $5 to feel alive in a nicer, newer car today. But hurry, my Drive for $5 event ends midnight on Halloween. My name's Joe Clemens and I'm your dealer for the people. Boo! Come see us at Capital City Automax, just minutes from downtown Lincoln at 2000 West O Street next to Casey's. Call 975-8925 or online at approvedbyjoe.com. Approvedbyjoe.com. www.approvedbyjoe.com.
All terms subject to approval. Some minimum requirements.
How did hiring the right person become so difficult? Well, it doesn't have to be. Alpha Digital already has targeted databases built to very qualified candidates that are just looking for the right opportunity. That allows you to target exactly who you're trying to reach with a budget that is customized just for you. Learn about all the possibilities by going to alphamediadigital.com today. Find your next star employee with alphamediadigital.com.
Turn up your speakers for your sports treble and bass. The games that matter play here. Lincoln's ESPN Radio. Keeping it real. The Real Red Reaction Show is uncensored and powered by Hail Varsity on ESPN Lincoln, 101.5 FM and 1480 AM.
Back with you here on Real Red Reaction. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal, Meg and JP from 96 Kicks, and Tim Bob Kitzmiller were streaming for you on the Real Red Reaction Facebook. And make that YouTube channel. Facebook on ESPN Lincoln 96 Kicks and KFOR. Also on Twitter with ESPN Lincoln, KFOR, and Hail Varsity's radio Twitter handle. Let's hear from Mickey Joseph as I'm thinking midnight. And if some folks want to jump on here, last call is there. I got a fresh beer. Meg, did you get a fresh beer?
I did refill my White Claw like a good basic chick.
Okay, so
Please tell me somebody left some beers at the station. Are there any in the fridge?
Ooh, I haven't been to the
There's
station in a
a
while.
six-pack of Reds in there if you'd like one.
Marlboro Reds?
Oh, it's gonna be a cowboy killer night tonight.
Jim Bob's like, keep your hands off of my Reds.
Elijah, there might be a shooter in my desk.
I'm not getting all the Reds you want. Just
one?
My beef eaters, man.
Yeah.
Gin and tonic. Stay away from my beef eaters, man.
Meg's desk. I mean, it looks like every junior high principal's desk, man. That floor.
You know what? It's how we get through radio, you know?
All good. Let's toast Mickey and the boys for a good effort tonight, and better days ahead for Nebraska with Illinois coming it down. Perhaps this is disturbing. As the pig farmer got done with his interview, he raced into his locker room and thought about jumping, but Bielema can't jump. So he just turned it into a mosh pit, and he has 7 injured linemen now. That's what they're showing on Twitter. Let's go to Mickey Joseph, though, and his post-game comments. Nebraska falls on the road at Purdue. A tight ball game. Nebraska unable to get it handled. 43-37, back and forth affair for Nebraska. Big plays. The name of the game for Nebraska staying in this.
All right, first of all, I'm going to credit Coach Braum and his football team. They were well prepared. They had a great atmosphere. They had a great game plan. You know, I want to take my hats off to our boys. Our boys fought, and that's what we asked them to do.
How hard is it to win a game when you face 101 plays on defense? How did your defense fight?
Yes, the defense fought. They fought, but it's tough to do that. You're right. They had a great game plan holding the ball, and we got to go back. We got to fix it, and like I said, it's on me. It's on me. It's not on the kids, not on the coaches. I got to figure out how to get that done. Well, that's the thing about it. You know, we'll make a play, then they'll come back and they'll make a play. We had to execute. Remember, we said during the week that against this team, we had to execute on all 3 phases of the game, and we didn't execute in all 3 phases. Like I said, that's on me. I got to get them to execute. Well, just get back out here and continue to fight, stay with the game plan, you know, try to see if we can force a turnover, but keep playing. Keep playing. Don't look at the scoreboard. Just keep playing. Yes, he missed some throws, but he made some great throws. You know, he missed some throws, made some great throws. You're not gonna hit them all. You know, we got to go back and look at the film and see what happened and why he missed the throws. Oh no! I take my hat out. I told them to keep their head up, block out the noise, and get back here on Monday, and we'll see what we have to fix. We're excited about the bye week, and then we have a 5-game season after that. But I told them to keep their head up. I'm proud of them. They played hard.
How are you guys able to free up Trey so often and to get him so open?
Well, we knew they would have trouble running with Trey. So we knew we got Trey in the secondary that he'll run. Yeah, he was able to run by him. I take my hat off to Trey. Trey played a great game today. I just take my hat off to him. He played hard. Yeah, they hadn't been running it, but they got they had a good game plan. They, like I said, we had to execute against this team. This team's been playing a lot of football together, and they did a great job. You know, they had a better game plan than we had, and that's on me. I got to get it better. Say it again.
How much have you seen that fight those guys showed come along since your last fight?
Well, if you've been there, they just come out. They just come out and keep fighting. You know, we ask them not to look at the scoreboard and just to keep fighting.
Hindsight, I know it's immediate hindsight. Would you have done anything differently to hold on to the ball to maybe save your defense a little bit?
Well, my thing with a team like that, when they're scoring points, you got to chase points also. You know, and then we got, like I said, we got to go back and look at it and see what we could have done differently. But we got to go back and look at it right now. We'll look at it on the plane back, and we'll get back as coaches and we'll figure it out. Like I said, everything's on me. Everything's on me. Oh yeah. Yeah, like I said, he's getting comfortable with this conference, and he knows who can run and who can't run, and he knows how to run routes on him right now. So he's doing a great job of studying the conference and studying what he needs to do. But yes, I'm not surprised that he had this game.
What was your surprise level on 4th and inches when they pulled the pass?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. They threw a pat. They threw. Well, y'all got on me last week for that, so go get on Brown about that.
What about O'Connell? I mean, he showed what a 6-year guy can do.
Oh yeah. What I said earlier in the week, I said that guy don't make mistakes with the football. He's been in the system for 6 years. You know, thanks to COVID, he's been in the system for 6 years. That guy don't make mistakes. And I said before, we had to execute in all 3 phases of the game, and I got to get that fixed. This is on me. Yes. Well, we had a call that we didn't like, so we had to make the call. We had to get a timeout. We had a call we didn't like, and we had to use it. Yeah. We just changed up some of the protection and got some chip it in from the back end, the tight end. Well, you always got to learn from a loss. You always got to learn from a loss. So, like I said, we're gonna go back as coaches and see what we didn't do well, and then we're gonna fix it because it's a copycat league. If we don't fix it, we're gonna see it in 2 weeks against Illinois. What's your plan for the bye week? How we handle the second bye week? Well, we're gonna give them off and bring them back on Monday. We got to get healthy. We got to get healthy. Like you said, we play without our linebackers. We got to get healthy. So we'll bring them back Monday and see where we're at, and then we'll go from there. But we do have a plan. But right now, they're going to be off tomorrow and bring them back on Monday. Thank you.
Good stuff from Mickey Joseph. Very complimentary of his kids' effort and very complimentary of what Purdue did. And again, Meg and JP and Tim Bob and Elijah, it's not accountability, man. Mickey says it's on me, said it multiple times, and takes the blame for the loss. And what it came down to maybe holding the ball in the time of possession topic we hit on, Mickey is not wrong. We got to chase points is what he said. And, man, did they ever with Trey Palmer. Trey was asked about his performance, and the cliff notes on it is like, look, it's cool that I set the record, but it doesn't mean anything because we lost the game. So really wacky night of college football. You have Michigan State stabilize a little bit after a 4-game losing streak. They whacked Wisconsin in double overtime. Illinois bludgeoned Minnesota. Minnesota's going the wrong direction, just 14 points. Chase Brown, 233 total yards. He's been in the Big Ten forever. He's been about every Big Ten media day. He's an incredible back, but playing in Bielema's system, he'll get some national recognition he deserves. Iowa had the bye week. Little Tua helped Maryland hang on against Indiana. I think there's probably dead man walking in Bloomington.
Did you see that little Tua did leave the game at the end of he left the end of the game with a knee injury. He carted off.
Yes. No, he got carted off.
That could be a big loss for Maryland moving forward.
That's no good, man. He's playing great football for the Fear the Turtle crew. And of course you get a win tonight if you're Purdue to keep pace and win your 4th in a row after a tough start.
Well, while we're on the topic here of what's going down in the Big Ten and specifically the Big Ten West, and Jeff chimes in on Twitter that USC got beaten. I did in fact see that.
Yes.
Predicted that one wrong. So anyone who's listening to Friday Hail Varsity Radio, Elijah misses another game. And
good thing you're not betting, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
Did he die, or did he just unplug it?
It seemed to me, based on what I saw, that his battery died.
Yes.
But I would just like to say, while we're talking about the Big Ten West, I think everything I heard from Mickey Joseph there in the post-game presser indicates to me that is a damn good football coach. If you like him, if you think he's the guy, if you don't think he's the guy, I don't think you can contest the fact that he's a damn good football coach. But what Nebraska's looking for in their next head coach and whatnot, I'm not sold on just yet, is the fact that Nebraska is looking for a coach that is going to come in and be the class of the Big Ten West. I mean, with the resources that Nebraska has, with the fan support that Nebraska has when compared to the rest of the Big Ten West, Nebraska is aiming high with this coaching search. You're searching for a guy that, if they're not the best coach in the Big Ten West, they're at least in the top 3. And they're based on what type of team they have any given season. You can make an argument that they're the best coach in the Big Ten West. And I'm not sold that Mickey Joseph is the best coach in the Big Ten West just right now. And I'm not necessarily saying that's what Trev is looking for. I mean, if Mickey can develop into that guy, then that's a reasonable point and a reasonable reason to bring him on as well. But that's what Nebraska is looking for in this coaching search. And that's what Mickey still has to prove to me, that he has a chance to go toe-to-toe with the Kirk Ferentz of the league, the Fitzgeralds of the league. I mean, he went toe-to-toe with Jeff Brom tonight. I don't think he outcoached Jeff Brom tonight. I don't think Jeff Brom outcoached him. That's the definition to me of they went toe-to-toe. And I think that's a step in the right direction for Mickey Joseph, even though the results weren't there. I think this is like, you know what, holding firm. It's not a win. It's not a loss. It's probably a push in terms of Mickey Joseph's ascent to becoming the permanent head coach. But Trev Alberts is looking for a guy that has the ability within him in a season to be the best coach in the Big Ten West. That's what Nebraska deserves. That's what Trev Alberts is looking for. And that's why I think it's too early to say, you know what, Mickey Joseph is the guy to lead this Husker football team. If he can prove that to me between now and November, I think that he at least has the potential to be one of the best coaches in the Big Ten West. Then I think he deserves that opportunity. But if you get to the end of the season, you go, you know what, Mickey Joseph, I'm not sure if you are one of the top coaches in the Big Ten West. Then you go elsewhere and you look for a guy that you do think has potentially be the best coach in the Big Ten West. That's why I think Nebraska should be looking for him. I'm not Trev Alberts, but that's my 2 cents on the situation. That's why I'm not a Mickey Joseph hater by any means. I'm very impressed with what he's put together, but Nebraska needs to shoot high with this coaching search, because based on your resources that you have surrounding the athletic department, based on the kind of support you have for this football team, that's what the fans deserve. They deserve a guy who's going to be one of the best coaches in the Big Ten West.
Agreed.
Well, he didn't lose the game for Nebraska tonight. It just came down to
he gave his team a chance to win this football game on the in-game adjustments that he made. He did
Sure.
give the team that chance.
Well, and he's not throwing them under the bus. He's being real. It comes down to execution, Meg and Tim Bob, and that's where Nebraska is either not, they can't do it or won't do it, right? With some of the line play.
Playing 4 quarters of football, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. It's
Hey,
not.
Nebraska was right. Nebraska got it to the fourth quarter again.
Yes.
Right? That's what Mickey preaches. Get it to the fourth quarter and then finish. Nebraska almost finished. Just quite get off the field.
Yeah, that's what I think that's frustrating. And I do appreciate Mickey's passion. I also appreciate the, I guess, urgency in his in the cadence of his voice during the post-game pressers. I have no doubt in my mind, like he obviously wants to this team to succeed. He wants these boys to do well. He's working with what he got right now. You know, and that can be a really tough feat, because these are, you know, guys that he didn't recruit them. It's the whole thing is just, you know, it's just not going to happen overnight. Like we keep saying, it's frustrating. But you know, we still have a ton of work to do, and we've got not, you know, necessarily the most easy schedule ahead of us for the last 6 weeks. So.
Well, it's going to be tough. I was just reading a really long article about the case for Bill O'Brien to come in. You know, I think there's some good prospects out there, and again, I think Mickey's he's got a on-the-job interview right now, and we'll see how it goes. But I really picked up on what he said, and what Elijah's kind of alluded to is that if we don't get this fixed, we're going to see it the rest of the season.
Yes.
So we'll see what they can fix. I think, you know, if they can get both those linebackers back, or at least one of them back after the bye week, that would be a big help, because I think they played really pretty good football. You know, the defensive line has played better. I like what you know, the defensive game plan has been. It's been aggressive. It's not laying back. But you know, you're looking at some. That's why you're in the Big Ten, right? Every game's tough, right?
Right.
And everybody overlooks this. You go back and look at who Tom Osborne played in his days, and I know there's some comments on it. Let's forget that, but that's what Nebraska lives on. They played 1, maybe 2 significant games a season. That's the difference between that football 20 years ago and football today so 30 years ago now, longer than that, is that every game is a tough game, and you're going to have some grind and play better, and you're going to have to overcome some places where you're outmanned. You're going to have to get lucky, and you're going to have to win like Fitzgerald does in North Carolina, Northwestern, and like Ferentz does over at Iowa. It may not be pretty, it may not be dominant, but you got to have an identity. And I think that's where Nebraska's going to have to live with what they've got for now. And I still think there's 3 wins out there. At the same time, I think the coaching search has to continue. And I think Elijah's right. You've got to bring in the best coach you can. And I think there's some good candidates that have emerged in the last few weeks that it would be must be considered.
Lars is going to check in with us from the great state of Arizona. Lars, welcome into Real Red Reaction. Thanks for the phone call. Go for it.
Hey, I just want to say I'm behind Mickey Joseph 100%. The dude is awesome. I think, talking about the last caller, I think we're going to go ahead and get to a bowl game this year. It's just everybody's just got to believe. That's just what it is. We have what we have, and it is what it is. And we just got to believe. That's all I have to say.
Lars, appreciate you listening, man. Thanks for the phone call. Yeah, I think Nebraska fans absolutely want to believe, but it's you know what? I'll say this. There's not really any blind faith with Mickey or this team. On one hand, you have a limited squad. On the other hand, you've got a guy that can elevate play and belief and what you can get, what you can squeeze out of a player, let alone a team. So that's a nice counter to the reality of being limited.
Yeah.
So, and that makes Mickey and this football team dangerous in a good way, that they're presumably going to be in it for the rest of the 6. Michigan, maybe not, just because of the absolute talent difference. But you proved Vegas wrong tonight, and you had a shot. If you could have got one stop to get the football back, and the pucker factor was at like 15 out of 10 for the Purdue defense and that Purdue crowd. The last thing they wanted is one more, play that hit again. Casey to Palmer for 50 plus, and then you're down a point. And
Right.
Nebraska didn't get that opportunity.
And one thing I'll say is I'm very curious to see what this team looks like coming out of a bye week. This team looked, miles ahead of where they looked during the Oklahoma game when they came out of that bye week and played Indiana. And I understand the argument that you are what you are, but also high-level coaches, the type of coaches that Nebraska deserve, would get some of these things cleaned up. And some of the things do look better. I think Nebraska at least has an offensive identity now moving forward. And while that offensive identity is one guy, Trey Palmer, at least it's an offensive identity. The offensive line doesn't look much better, and I'm curious to see what they look like coming out of a bye week. The tackling, you thought it was better, and then tonight some of those missed tackles started rearing their ugly head again. The pass rush was a problem, and you thought it was cleaned up, and then you come back tonight and you're playing a better quality football team, and those same issues are persisting. So I'm curious to see what this team looks like coming out of a bye, but I do think that a high-level football coach would get some of these things cleaned up. And I'm not saying that they'd have it cleaned up by now. There was a mountain to climb, and the way you climb a mountain is one step at a time. So there's a lot of work to be done. I am very curious to see what this team looks like coming out of a bye. I know I've said it a couple of times, but that's the real test here. The bye week is where you can get your work done as a coaching staff and get some of these things improved. While you're on short weeks going to Rutgers and focusing an entire week on game preparation, there's only so much you can do to clean up some of these things. I want to see what they get cleaned up coming out of another bye week, because they cleaned up a lot out of the first bye week. Let's see what they can do coming out of a second bye week, because I'm not saying Nebraska will get these guys, but a coach like Nick Saban, a coach like Kirby Smart, a coach like, name a top college football coach, would be getting these things cleaned up throughout the course of his season, even with the type of talent Nebraska has in this football team. I'm not saying that Mickey Joseph needs to be Nick Saban or Kirby Smart. I'm not saying Nebraska is going to go get a guy like Nick Saban or Kirby Smart, but Nebraska deserves a high-level football coach to be at the helm of their program. Husker fans deserve that, and a high-level football coach is going to be getting these things cleaned up as the season goes on. It's one thing to get effort and passion back on a football field. I think that's bare minimum for a football team. As I said before in this show, it comes down to what on these things on the field can you get cleaned up. I don't think they're going to get everything cleaned up, but a high-level football coach will get some of these things cleaned up and give yourself a better chance to win. So I'm going to save some of my judgment for for Mickey Joseph and what his long-term outlook looks like for after the bye week and what the stretch run really looks like, I think he's taken steps towards becoming the next permanent head coach in Nebraska. I am just not sold at the moment.
I agree with you, Elijah. And I think as the weeks go on, it's just going to depend again on what happens for the rest of the season. And also, we have already, there's a list of candidates that have been getting talked about, and there's probably going to be a whole other slew of candidates by the end of the season to be taken into consideration. And Schmitty, earlier, I think you made a good point, playing devil's advocate a little bit, saying like who would want to come in and try to clean up this program. And I guess it also depends on what happens, what heads roll at the end of the season as well, what programs end up getting some slashes in at the end of the season, and what kind of housekeeping that other programs across the country end up doing. But I don't know. I feel like maybe, I know that, not to live in the past or anything, but Nebraska, I feel like as of right now, this might be the sexiest choice for someone to come and take this job, especially when you've got boosters, especially when you got the money. Like, I don't know. I feel like
NIL options. Yeah.
NIL options, all that stuff. Yeah.
It's just there's a lot that needs to get fixed, but I think you can do it, and you can do it in relatively not shortcut, but you can go load up on the recruiting trail. You can load up in the portal. That's not how you build or how you sustain, but it can fix, right? It can fix rather quickly. Let's go to Andrew. He's on the line, and then Robert will get to you as well. Andrew, welcome into Real Red Reaction. Go ahead.
Hello. First-time caller, long-time listener, big fan of the show.
Thank you.
Man, it's tough. I really feel like we're back in 2021 after watching this game. We're so close yet so far away. The thing that, I don't know, it's just something I've noticed all season, and it's just piqued my interest, is just I'm starting to kind of question the strength and conditioning, because a lot of these guys, like, the play that sticks out is that Ty Robinson, the 4th and 1.
Mm-hmm.
He's one-on-one with Aiden O'Connell. Like, Aiden O'Connell's not the most athletic guy. He's a pocket passer, and he was a stud tonight. And just that little move, and Ty Robinson looked like he was caught in sand. And it's weird to me, these guys, they all look the part. They're athletic, they're long, they're big. But then it's just, they look clunky. They almost look robotic in a way, to the point where they have this muscle, they have the athleticism, but they just don't know how to use it. And it's just, I don't know. I thought it was just curious, because I've noticed it time and time again where it's like, oh, he's got a shot at the quarterback, we're going in, and then it just like can't move right. It's just something that's kind of bugged me.
And
I'm wondering.
I'm not going to discount your point here, because I do see what you're saying. I think, especially along the lines of scrimmage, it's true. But I do want to give Ty Robinson just a little bit of leeway here and say that was the 97th play of the game that the defense.
Yeah.
So it's one thing if you have your feet stuck in
just 97.
Just 90.
Yeah, exactly. I get it.
I do see your point, though, Andrew, where in the past few years, it just doesn't necessarily look like this is a team that's been built and conditioned for Big Ten football.
Right.
There was a comment a few weeks ago about, I think, some of the former Huskers came back and watching the weight room and were surprised at the lack of development in how you prepare a team in today's football. I don't remember. I think it was on the show. Maybe Amir or some others talked about it, but there may be some changes on that level as well.
Yeah, it was just a little detail where, like, in my mind, it was just like, it's like I was watching like a bodybuilder in a gym trying to do football moves, where it just didn't, something about the flow, the motion just didn't seem natural, I guess. It's just, I don't know, it's probably a little thing. And like you said, it was the 97th play of the game. So yeah, you're probably pretty tired, I imagine. So
you'd hope, Andrew, that the Nebraska defensive linemen, that Bama and, Ohio State and some of the who's who of college football, made recruitable and committable offers to, would make a play. And Ty's a run stuffer.
Yeah.
And that's his job. And second, it's get after the quarterback or collapse the pocket on the interior, right? I mean, he's not a demon off the edge like a JP or a Wistrom. So
Yeah.
Ty played his ass off tonight. That was a tough play, and O'Connell just was crafty enough to get evasive and pick it up. And it was, man, that was the ball game. But there was a lot of plays beforehand Nebraska needed to make to get off the field. The 3rd and 11 to start the drive right after the pass interference penalty.
Yeah.
And I'll just say to Andrew's point, though, when you do look around college football and even look around the Big Ten, and the teams are doing well within the Big Ten, their defensive lines, really their teams as a whole, don't look like Nebraska's. And I don't think that's an athlete problem with Nebraska. I do see Andrew's point here. When you just look at what defensive linemen around the whole game of college football look like, they don't look like Nebraska's defensive line. When you look at what offensive linemen look like around the world of college football and even in the Big Ten, they don't look like Nebraska's offensive line. So I think Andrew does bring up a valid point here.
Big time. Andrew, we'll see what the bye week does and gear up for Illinois. Bud, thanks for listening. Thanks for making the call.
Yep, thanks for taking me.
Appreciate you. There he is. Good stuff from Andrew. Let's go to Robert. Robert's been hanging on. Robert, thanks for your patience. Welcome into Real Red Reaction. Go ahead, bud.
Everybody seems to be kind of a naysayer.
Robert, do me a favor. Can you either turn your volume up or go to I need handheld. You're real faint, bud. I want to take your call, but I can't really hear you.
Okay.
That sounds a little better.
Is that any better?
Yes, that is better.
Yeah, you're great right now. Fire away, bud.
Okay, yeah, I think that we're still just one play away. If you take a good look at it, it's really one more stop on 3rd down, one less turnover, and we're there. And we win that game. And we've won 3 straight, and Mickey's the guy at that point, and we're not having all this discussion about who's going to come in and coach and how do we get these things fixed. Yeah, they're not perfect, but we're 1 or 2 plays away from winning that game and being 3-0 the last 3 weeks, and we don't have all this talk about who's the next coach and what do we got to fix. I think we're that close.
You know, they're a heck of a lot closer now than they were in Dublin, and that was a 3-point loss. And while yardage is very similar, and the way the yardage got put up, I mean, you got gashed by a air quote non-running team tonight, right? Yeah. Just like Northwestern went throwback Nebraska on you in the second half. That's a problem, and it's not changed, and it's not that it hasn't been addressed, Robert. I mean, Nebraska's very cognizant that stopping the runs, numero uno priority on defense, and they couldn't get it done.
I realized they gave up about 600 yards again, which is too much, but you almost won the game, and it wouldn't have mattered had we got that W.
Now you'll deal with a few warts if you've got wart remover, which is the win, right?
That's correct.
Hey, Robert, you take care, buddy. Appreciate you listening to us.
You bet.
All right, there he is. Good to hear from Robert. We have hit midnight. Welcome to October 16th.
Whoa. We're still 30 seconds away from midnight, Schmitty. You're jumping the gun.
2 hours. And
well past my bedtime, too.
Proud of you, Tim Bob, sticking around.
Sucking it up for an old man.
I'm going to get up early and throw a smoke butt on, or a pork butt on the smoker. And that's how late it's getting for me, is I'm messing up my words now. But I'm supposed to get up and throw a pork butt on the smoker. But hey,
man, I made a killer beef stew tonight that was just. My wife said top 5. Man, it was good.
Dang.
Yeah, so I stepped up and made my first stew of the fall season. So it was.
Well, the next road game's Michigan, right?
Yes.
We've got Illinois 2 weeks. Minnesota 3 weeks, Michigan. Elijah may be on location for that one. And then I think, Meg, you and I are supposed to go to Iowa City.
That's the plan.
Well, enjoy. We are going to sign off, say sayonara, and thanks for listening to us here on Real Red Reaction. Catch the replay as it's going to be posted on ESPN Lincoln's website, espnlincoln.com. And you can watch the show, check her out on the different Twitter feeds as well, KFOR and ESPN Lincoln, Hail Varsity Radio at H Varsity Radio. And then the show's archived for you as well on YouTube, on the Real Red Reaction YouTube, also with ESPN Lincoln Facebook, KFOR Facebook, and 96 Kicks Facebook. Big thanks to our friends at Currency. They are presenting sponsors for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency, and Currency is an online lending solution that specializes in heavy machinery, farm equipment, trucks, and trailers. Whether you're replacing old machines or expanding your fleet, Currency helps and makes financing simple. Visit gocurrency.com for details. Well, better days for Nebraska next time. A tough one tonight, a 6-point loss at Purdue tonight, 43-37. Big thanks to you, Elijah Herbal. Big thanks to you, Meg. Big thanks to you, Tim Bob, JP, for chiming in. You to the listeners for calling, supporting, and commenting. And we'll be back with you Monday on Hail Varsity for more reaction and thoughts and mid-season report card time for us, as it is the final bye week. Guys, take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and gear up for some NFL. Everyone have a safe night and take care.